It's June 24th, and this is the evening edition of Mike and Bike. So, this evening, or this afternoon, I think I'm going to talk about privacy. And secrecy, because I think they're related, of course, because you can't have privacy if you don't have secrets. And how important is privacy? Is it important? And what would life be like if we didn't have privacy? If privacy were to disappear? In many respects, privacy is diminishing in our new electronic age. More and more things we do are being tracked, watched. We're on video cameras everywhere we go. Our shopping behavior is tracked. Hello. So many things that we do now are being traced. If someone gets a hold of your laptop, they can have your whole life history, see everything you've been doing, the websites you go to, and our entire online lives, Facebook, social networks, everything. Our lives are becoming increasingly open to the world. Even if you don't keep a social media page, somebody else could. What's to prevent someone else from taking a picture that you happen to be in and putting that on their Facebook page or their website? Hello? So the privacy of the individual is certainly slowly being eroded. But is this all a bad thing? I mean, what would a world without privacy really be like? I don't know. Sometimes I think the secrets that we keep, or companies keep, or governments keep, really shouldn't be secret. And things wouldn't be so bad if everyone knew. I mean, companies, for example, try to keep a lot of financial details secret. How much employees are paid. So salary information is kept secret. Designs and prototypes are kept secret. You don't want people to get your engineering data. But really, even if someone had your engineering information, is that really going to help your competitors that significantly? I don't know. I mean, they still have to build the stuff. And I think sometimes if your only value is in the secrecy of your designs or something, might be a pretty poor business then to have. I mean, your value is in your ability to make something and deliver it in a cost-effective way, provide support for it, and so on. So I don't know. And if you think, certainly in the case of governments, making lots of things top secret and so on, how important are those secret things? And if there are things that governments are doing that would be embarrassing or cause diplomatic rows if they became public, then I wonder if the governments ought to be doing them in the first place. In fact, that's kind of one of my thoughts, is that if there is something that's a secret, maybe that's an indication, and that you want to keep a secret, maybe it's an indication of something that you shouldn't be doing. I mean, if you're cheating on your spouse or having affairs, maybe you shouldn't be doing those things. And would the world really be such a terrible place if you couldn't keep such things secret? Hello. It's certainly becoming harder to keep infidelity a secret. And even things like theft and crime is likely being harder to commit, because it's easier to track down whoever are the perpetrators of those crimes. I mean, can you even get it's almost ridiculously stupid to be a bank robber anymore, with video cameras and all of the different ways of tracking people. It's hard to avoid getting caught. I mean, phones can be easily tracked and tapped. How can you keep your conversations private? Even burner phones. You change your phones all the time. Those can be easily tracked as well. They could quickly identify your new phones based on who you're calling. So, would it be a safer world if there was no privacy? I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, in particular in the case of wars and such. If you knew exactly what the other guys were thinking and what they were angry about or their intentions, maybe they would never go to war, because they know you knew what they were doing. Would that be the end of war? If all parties knew exactly what the other guys were up to? And if you knew exactly what they were talking about and planning, and there was absolutely no secrecy at all, no way to hide any meetings or have secret plans, if there was no way to mask what you were doing, if your secret services were unable to hide behind subterfuge as they attempted to your secret services attempted to influence affairs, with deception, if this deception would never work, would always fail, then obviously nobody would be doing that. Their only options would be blunt action, blunt force, really. I don't know, that sounds too harsh. That makes it sound like if you couldn't use your secret services because there was no secrecy, then that would make more and more probable, because your only option would be to resort to force. But I doubt that. I think that it would be harder for nations, certainly on a nation-to-nation basis, to get away with things that were morally dubious. If your actions would be exposed for the world to see. If you wanted to capture some territory to gain natural resources, for example, the whole world would know. Everybody would know it. I mean, not just in the way the world knows now, just by inference, saying, well, the only logical reason they want that is for the natural resources. But the world would know what was in your heart or what you actually thought, because the meetings where this was discussed would be open for everybody to see. I think the citizens of any nation would be reluctant. The citizens of a nation who knew their leaders wanted a war for monetary reasons or to snap resources, the citizens would be loath to support that conflict. It would be hard for those governments to build the support they wanted. I mean, think about it. If there was no privacy, government propaganda wouldn't work. Of course, just because there's no privacy doesn't mean that the citizens control the media, per se. I mean, your TV stations or newspapers could still be controlled and report things with a slant. But if the raw information was public, then it would be hard to just slant it. Your slanting would be difficult. I suppose that this whole idea, if you were going to have the end of no secrecy or a world with no secrecy, it pretty much implies that there's no control over media, that you can't restrict the media that your citizens can access. Otherwise, you'd be back to secrecy. So in this hypothetical world of total openness, no government would be able to control the internet within its borders. Okay, thinking of another aspect of no secrecy. If there was no secrecy, you'd have no passwords. That means you couldn't have security on things like bank accounts. That wouldn't be so good. But I guess there's secrecy and there's secrecy. I mean, there's one thing to have a secret password or a secret password. It's another thing if your bank relied on biometrics, for example, for security. Hello. Good. Who's playing tonight?
I think Gavin McGraw or
Gavin?
Draw, I don't do that.
Okay. Definitely, there's a lot of traffic for the concert.
So that would be 20. Oh wow, so the line is right there.
So, back to secrecy. In a world with no secrets, where your passwords could not be kept secret, I suppose you could still have security, right? You can still have security even in the absence of secrecy, because your bank could verify your identity through fingerprints, facial recognition, a variety of things. So there could be ways that you can still have security on certain things, I suppose. On top of that, in a world without secrets, people couldn't steal things very easily without getting caught. So the interest in theft would decrease. So there's that too. You couldn't have criminals hiding behind, you wouldn't have criminals hiding behind webs of shell corporations, like internet criminals stealing money electronically and having it routed through multitudes of banks and so on to obfuscate who's getting it. Because in a world of no secrets, people would know anyway. They would know who the ultimate recipients of that money was. Can't hide it in this theoretical world. So maybe you don't need security on your money then, since no one can steal with impunity anymore. I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I'm liking this world of no secrets. You couldn't prevent people from watching you naked or watching anybody else be naked in the nude, I suppose. People could watch every room of your house, see every conversation that happens. I remember there was a movie, a Robert Redford movie, years ago, where there was a device that was capable of breaking all encryption codes that people were after, It was all a suspense thriller about people trying to capture this device. But that's kind of silly, because even if you have no encryption, you can still have secrets. And you can still have security. And people could just change how they transmit their information. Don't send it over public data networks if you can't rely on the encryption, for one thing. No, the scenario I'm talking about would be much more expansive than just than the end of encryption. It's total traceability, total visibility. Some kind of omniscience. Trying to figure out how to cross here. Yeah, there's certainly pros and cons to a world without privacy. Do the pros outweigh the cons? I don't know. It would certainly not be fair, and it would upset the whole dynamic and balance if some people or entities were able to keep things private when others couldn't. But if there was absolutely no privacy for anyone, anywhere, then it's more of an open thing. It's more fair. It's fair in a way. Again, if you couldn't keep your homes private and people could watch your every room, what's going on, then maybe people would be more cautious about getting involved in big arguments or domestic violence. You would beat up your family if you knew people were watching you and that what you did would be known. You couldn't just say that your kid fell down the stairs when you take him to the hospital. The hospital would know how the kid got hurt. Yep. Seems to be a lot of good that would come out of a world with no privacy. And someone could get all your confidential data, your passport information, your bank account numbers, your social security numbers. But again, what could they do with it? If they tried to steal money from your bank, people would know. They couldn't hide it. They would be known and discovered. Identity theft would be pointless because people would know who you really were anyway. So it wouldn't help you to have somebody else's personal information. I wonder if some people just wouldn't be able to hack it. And psychologically, it would break psychologically if they had no privacy. But it's hard for us to tell, because if you were brought up in a world like that, you would have become acclimated to it. You'd have different expectations. It's hard for us to imagine. I wonder if they're having some event at the temple. See some cars. Hi.
You're making better time than I am.
How are you doing?
Good, good. How are the kids adjusting to summertime?
Okay, it's all camps.
All camps?
So in many senses, it's similar to school.
Yeah.
I drop them off in the morning and we pick them up. They're going to a Bellevue Youth Theater this week.
Oh, really?
So they're doing a play.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yep.
As far as I'm singing that song, School's Out for Summer.
I don't know. Oh, we also are making them do, are you walking this way?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going this way too, so don't let me stop you. We're also making them do studying this summer.
Oh, good.
So we have a rule. We got these workbooks with they have a mix of math and reading and a variety of things in them for their grades, and we have a rule that they can't have any screen time until they finish so many pages of workbook every day.
Smart man.
And there's been griping about that, I can tell you.
Yeah, right. I bet.
But it's summer, Dad. Why should I have to? We shouldn't have to be doing schoolwork in the summer.
Yeah.
Oh, well. See ya.
See ya. Take care, buddy.
Yeah.
Drive careful.
Yeah. That's my neighbor Jim, out walking his dogs. So, privacy. It's still sounding like a good thing, a world without privacy. You know, you could almost achieve the same thing if you had telepathy, I guess, where everyone knew what was in other people's minds. That would certainly be an end to privacy if you couldn't hide anything in your mind or your past, any experiences you've had, if it was all an open book and there was no form of mind discipline that could control your thoughts to prevent to control what others could or could not see, that would pretty much be what we're talking about here. It's almost as if your world, there was some virus that struck the world and you gave everybody global telepathy powers so they could read the minds of anyone, anywhere in the world. It wouldn't change human nature. We are who we are. Some people would certainly still be eager to take advantage of others. But you couldn't get away with it. If you can't get away with it, then would you do it? There's always some psychologically deranged who would go hurt people no matter what. Well, at least in such a case, we know who those people were. And we know what they did. So they wouldn't be able to continue with their psychopathy for long. Hello. So what about if you had an end to privacy on a more modest scale? Just kind of an end to digital privacy, or kind of extend the trends we've already seen out by 20 years. No telepathy, no super omniscience. And that would be a good topic for another show. So this is the end of another episode of Mike and Bike, and I'll be seeing you all next time.